A wall collapses, injuring firefighters battling a 6-alarm blaze in San Jose. We will update their condition in a live report.
The killing of a popular market owner brings an emotional response from residents of one Oakland neighborhood. We'll have a live report.
You wouldn't think that eating these fruits and vegetables could do any harm, but a new study says what you can't see can be dangerous to children.
Also tonight, find out why a bumper crop of termites is suddenly eating some Bay Area homes right out from under their owners. Those stories, all the news on this Thursday night, February 18th, 1999.
And now, the award-winning 10 o'clock news on Channel 2, the #1 primetime newscast in the country.
Good evening, I'm Dennis Richmond.
And I'm Leslie Griffith. San Jose firefighters are on the scene of a 6-alarm fire tonight that sent 2 of their own to the hospital. The injured firefighters were outside the burning building when a wall collapsed on top of them. South Bay Bureau Chief Lloyd LaCuesta is at the scene of the fire tonight with more. Lloyd?
Leslie, as you can see, firefighters still remain here at 1st and Julian Streets in downtown San Jose to make sure that there aren't any hot spots that might flare up. The fire broke out at about 4 o'clock this afternoon and sent up a huge column of black smoke over downtown. The one-story brick and mortar commercial building had been vacant for several years, and transients had been known to use it as a shelter. Because of the instability of the building, firefighters had pulled back and taken a defensive posture outside to allow the fire to burn itself out. But then the unexpected happened tonight, proving how truly dangerous is the business of firefighting. A wall of the burning building suddenly collapsed, and bricks and debris fell onto a fire truck and 2 firefighters. As other firefighters continued to battle the flames, San Jose's rapid rescue team went into action, pulling the injured firefighters to safety.
The wall just went like kind of sideways and just like a big old slam.
All I can tell you is there's a big loud boom and all the bricks came down instantaneously. It's pretty messy.
What happened here brought back memories of a fire in Oakland last month that killed a firefighter.
The commonality with all fires is they're dangerous as hell.
The 2 injured firefighters were rushed to the hospital. Their injuries are described as non-life-threatening. Officials say a post-analysis will determine what went wrong.
Were you too close? I mean, even the fire truck got hit by the bricks and everything.
It did, Lloyd. I mean, at this point, I can't deny the physics of the wall collapsing, but with these brick walls, when they come down, they also go laterally. It's not just a tilt of 100% of their wall height, but sometimes the debris, when it hits the ground, tends to bounce a little bit.
San Jose Mayor Ron Gonzalez came to the scene to express his concern for the injured firefighters. But the effect of this near tragedy was best expressed by the faces of firefighters themselves, who, while they stayed at their jobs, had no idea how their injured colleagues were doing.
We do what we can to prevent our people from being in harm's way. But when you see one of your own get injured on an incident like this, it has a dramatic effect.
The firefighters injured here were Peter Araujo, who is treated for cuts and bruises and has been released, and 16-year veteran Marty Honich. He remains hospitalized with a broken pelvis. The cause of the fire is under investigation. Now, for commuters, Julian Street between 2nd and Market Street will be closed through tomorrow morning, but the light rail trains which run through this 1st Street here should be operating normally by tomorrow morning. Ironically, this building was set to be demolished in 2 weeks' time to make a way for a housing project. And what happened here again shows that for firefighters, there is no such thing as a routine fire. Leslie, get it?
It certainly does. Thank you, Lloyd.
Customers of a West Oakland Quick Stop are tonight hoping police will quickly find the person who robbed the market early yesterday and killed the owner. Not because of the $25,000 reward that's being offered, but because the owner was so well liked. Twee Vu is in Oakland with a report. Twee?
Dennis, this store on MacArthur Boulevard north of Lake Merritt was not just any quick stop. It is a favorite stop for many people in the neighborhood. Customers have been bringing flowers here to remember the store's owner, a woman they say whose warmth and generosity touch their lives daily. But early yesterday morning, 39-year-old Nu Lu was shot and killed outside her store in what police are calling an armed robbery.
She's a beautiful lady, you know, everybody in the neighborhood loved her. You know, you see all the flowers outside, you know, that's how much the neighborhood respect her.
Lou immigrated from Vietnam in 1980. She leaves behind a husband and 3 young children. Police say at about 1:45 yesterday morning, she was shot in the head while sitting in her car. Just moments earlier, police say the gunman had robbed an employee who was locking the doors to the store.
We know that he threatened the male, was able to get some money from him, and then shot the female. We're trying to figure out why, what was the motivation for the shooting.
Sources tell the 10 o'clock news the gunman got away with only about $2 from the employee who was not hurt. All day long, customers have been coming by to pay their respects to the family, grown-ups, and even children. These boys offered their prayers. Karen Brown says she stops by the store every day.
She was sweet, helpful. She was a part of this community, and she's going to be missed. Really is. It's really hurtful when something like this happens.
Lou lives with her extended family in East Oakland in this apartment building. Her mother's door still bears decorations for the Chinese New Year, which began this week. The family did not want to talk on camera, but told me Lou had a big heart. She often sent money back to Buddhist temples in Vietnam to help the needy. And after years of hard work, she finally bought the Quick Stop store in 1989. It was her dream come true.
She never took a day off, you know, and I'm pretty sure she still wants the store to be open, you know, even if she's still alive right now. And, you know, this is the last thing at least I could do for her, you know, as a brother, and just, you know, carry on the dream for her.
The suspect is described as a clean-shaven male, 21 to 22 years old, 5'4" to 5'6" tall, weighing about 120 to 140 pounds. He was wearing a light blue sweater. The parent company of the Quick Stop chain is offering a $25,000 reward for information leading to the killer. Dennis, Leslie.
Tuivu, thank you. Oakland police announced an arrest today in a highly publicized hit-and-run accident that nearly severed the leg of an 11-year-old boy. Police say 21-year-old Freddie Eugene Leary of Oakland will be charged with felony hit-and-run. They say he was driving a car last week that jumped a curb and struck 2 young boys walking on a sidewalk at MacArthur Boulevard near 75th. The car trapped one of the children against the wall. Witnesses who later identified Leary say he got out of the car, looked at the child, and then ran. Police say Leary has an extensive criminal past and may be a 3-strikes candidate. 11-year-old Patrick Dawson is still in the hospital tonight. He's listed in stable condition at Children's Hospital. The other child was not seriously hurt.
The prime suspect in this week's killing of 20-year-old Tracy Bolitnikoff is back in the Bay Area tonight. San Mateo County Sheriff's deputies escorted 23-year-old Muhammad Harun Ali through the San Francisco airport within the past hour. The deputies brought Ali back from San Diego, near where he was arrested 2 days ago after the Border Patrol stopped him while he was driving Bolitnikoff's car. Homicide detectives investigating the scene and the county coroner spent several hours today at this drug rehab center in San Mateo. These are exclusive pictures of investigators gathering evidence late this afternoon. One of Ali's relatives called 911 early Tuesday and told police that Ali said he had killed Bolitnikoff inside this building. The victim is the 20-year-old daughter of Oakland Raider Hall of Famer Fred Bolitnikoff. She and Ali had both helped out at the center. Both were also said to be recovering addicts. The San Mateo County coroner says that Tracy Bolitnikoff was strangled to death. In Marin County, hundreds of students rallied today at a Novato high school. In the past year, San Marin High has been a flashpoint for incidents of alleged bigotry and racism. Now the students are concerned that their school is getting a bad reputation, and they say that it's undeserved. John Sasaki is in Novato tonight with a live report. John?
Leslie, today's rally came 2 days after several students from another school filed a class action lawsuit alleging systematic racism at San Marin, and 6 days after a gay San Marin student was beaten for the second time this school year in a suspected hate crime. At this morning's rally, students focused on what happened to their gay classmate.
We are telling the community that in no way will San Marin condone these actions or hide them or sweep them under the carpet. That we, just like any school, are outraged that a student of ours can be treated this way, regardless of race, religion, sex, or sexual orientation.
Police have arrested no suspects in last Friday's attack on 17-year-old Adam Colton, which happened on or near campus during school hours. Colton suffered facial injuries and sources say had anti-gay epithets written on his body. After seeing some of today's rally, Colton's father was unimpressed. He told us off camera tonight he thought it was just a bunch of students complaining that their school is getting trashed by the media. Colton is not alone tonight alleging mistreatment at San Marin. Two unidentified Tamalpais high school basketball players, a former player, and a parent filed a class action lawsuit this week against San Marin. They're charging that San Marin students often harass minority students from other schools during sporting events. Although the plaintiffs allege a history of racism, this lawsuit resulted from a basketball game at San Marin last year. The suit accuses some San Marin students of dressing up in afro wigs and blackface and harassing the Tamalpais players.
They started off this chant using the N-word, and it was directed at the African-American players on the Tamalpais basketball team. During the game, there continued to be some chants. There was a death threat made against one of the players and his family. Then after the game, the coaches and the students were harassed in the parking lot.
Price says she's received calls from several other people who want to join the lawsuit because of separate alleged mistreatment. The issue of racism surfaced at today's rally, with students once again defending their school.
I just want to ask to the community if San Marin is not safe for a student of different beliefs and races. How come we feel safe here in San Marin High School?
Now, as if the allegations of bigotry were not enough, Novato police say shortly after this morning's rally, several officers got into a violent confrontation with a 15-year-old student here at San Marin. Investigators say he was suicidal and was armed with a loaded .38 caliber handgun. They disarmed the boy and took him in for mental evaluation. Leslie Dennis, back to you.
John Sasaki. Thank you, John.
There is much more straight ahead on tonight's 10 o'clock news. A longtime Bay Area political consultant is taking himself on as his next client. We'll introduce you to a man who wants to be San Francisco's next mayor.
We are told to eat 5 servings a day to keep us healthy, but are some fruits and vegetables unsafe for children? We will have a live report.
They live in a mysterious underworld. Tonight on segment 2, John Fowler takes us thousands of feet under the sea to show us the creatures of the deep.
And a San Francisco landmark gets a new owner, one from the other side of the globe. 10 o'clock news continues in less than 2 minutes.
A political kingmaker who now wants to be king formally challenged Willie Brown today in the upcoming San Francisco mayor's race. His name is Clint Riley, and he became very wealthy running campaigns for candidates such as Dianne Feinstein and Barbara Boxer. It appears Riley will be a scrappy candidate, as political editor Randy Shandable reports.
A Muni rail car delivered Clint Riley to his Riley for Mayor speech today, and he hopes it will be Muni's problems that deliver him to the San Francisco mayor's office.
For those of you who don't know, my name is Clint Riley, and I'm here to formally announce my candidacy for mayor of San Francisco.
Riley passed out a glossy 48-page pamphlet that blames the current mayor, Willie Brown, for Muni's problems, for its chronically late buses and poor service, because, according to Riley, Brown awards multi-million-dollar Muni contracts to political cronies and contributors.
The truth is, Willie Brown is the problem with the Muni. Right now, we have a mayor who's willing to sell out the public and the Muni riders to strengthen his grip on power.
Mayor Brown's response?
Candidates are entitled to say anything they wish, virtually. The First Amendment protects them.
Right now, Willie Brown can afford to be dismissive. A recent poll shows that Brown is unpopular, but he still easily is the top choice over any of his potential big-name opponents. Supervisor Tom Amiano, former Mayor Frank Jordan, and barely registering Clint Riley.
I'm going to put in, my own money, significant amount of it.
A significant amount indeed when you consider this is, after all, just a mayor's race, up to $2 million of his own money, money made in part from his days as a political consultant.
While Riley's political consultant past should help him plot strategies in his uphill battle, his political consultant past could also work against him. He was as controversial as they come, and he made a lot of enemies.
Riley, unlike most campaign managers, has a history of crossing his clients, of working for them one campaign, against them in other campaigns. One candidate he never worked for, Willie Brown. Though Riley is rich, and though Riley is politically cunning, Riley is not well known. Witness his attempts to make contact with potential voters on Market Street.
My plan to fix Muni, thank you. Plan to fix Muni, thank you. This is my plan to fix Muni, thank you very much. This is my plan to... This is my plan to fix Muni, thank you very... Hi, how are you?
It's hard work being a politician, especially when you start at the bottom of the polls. Randy Shandeville for the 10 o'clock news.
Another person who wants to be elected mayor of San Francisco but has little name recognition is taking a unique approach to solving one of the city's biggest problems, the homeless. Jim Reed has been living among the homeless for more than a week now. He says that he wants to learn firsthand what people on the streets go through and what they need. And he says that he's been asking homeless people what they would do to solve the problem.
I think if I talk to enough people, I'll get little pieces of the problem, and then I could put it all together and maybe do a charter amendment that sort of bypasses the politicians and let the voters decide what they want to do.
Some of his ideas include finding space for one large shelter and offering counseling and vocational training there to help get the city's homeless on their feet. Reed says that he's going to put on a suit and tie next week and offer his findings to city administrators. He plans to officially file papers for the mayor's race in the next 2 weeks.
The winter storm that blew through the Bay Area today brought with it a variety of problems. Strong winds, heavy rains made it difficult for people to get around in downtown San Francisco. Channel 2 meteorologist Bill Martin says most of the rain fell north of the city, with the heaviest amounts in coastal mountains. In Pacifica and along the entire northern California coast, officials issued a heavy surf advisory during the day today. They warned people to stay off the beaches because of swells up to 15 feet high. Later in the day, the surf dropped. Officials allowed the advisory to expire. And some people traveling today experienced delays. San Francisco International Airport reported delays of up to 2 hours for arriving flights. Departing flights from SFO were up to an hour and a half late.
For decades now, nutrition experts have told us to eat lots of fruits and vegetables to help ensure a healthy diet. And in recent years, scientific research has encouraged eating fruits and vegetables because they can prevent cancer. But a new study out today warns that pesticide residue on fruits and vegetables can pose a danger, especially for children. Julie Hayner is in our newsroom with details. Julie?
Leslie, we always think of fruits and vegetables as healthy and safe, right? Well, New York-based Consumers Union, the publisher of Consumer Reports magazine, now says that's not always the case. According to this new study, certain produce commonly eaten by children has unsafe levels of toxic pesticide residues.
Our findings suggest quite clearly that the Environmental Protection Agency isn't doing its job.
The Consumer Union says the risk for children is that some of the most hazardous pesticides are used on some of kids' favorite foods. The study analyzed nearly 27,000 samples of domestic and imported produce. Researchers found 7 fruits and vegetables: apples, grapes, peaches, pears, green beans, spinach, and winter squash had the highest levels of dangerous toxins, while bananas and broccoli had among the lowest. Despite U.S. laws designed to protect produce, the Consumer Union says the problem is pesticide levels that can make kids sick usually do not violate agricultural standards.
Almost all the pesticide residues are within legal limits, so we're not talking about illegal pesticide use. But does that mean they're safe? No, it doesn't.
The findings revealed that for young, growing children, just one serving of some fruits and vegetables can exceed safe daily limits for certain pesticides. Nutrition experts say children are more vulnerable to pesticides than adults because they eat more food in proportion to their weight, and their bodies are still developing.
We estimated that if the Environmental Protection Agency took action to eliminate or ban these high-risk insecticide uses on key children's foods, they could make a substantial dent in the risk to children.
Until the government takes action on these pesticide uses, parents can reduce the risk somewhat by doing what this family does: wash or peel produce, remove the outer leaves of leafy vegetables, and buy organic foods when possible. But Consumer Reports says don't be discouraged from giving your children fresh fruits and vegetables. Just become better informed about how to serve them. Leslie, Dennis, back to you.
Okay, Julie, thank you. Still ahead tonight on the 10 o'clock news, we will tell you what led to this violent confrontation today on the streets of one South American nation.
I raised my weapon and I fired.
Police officer who shot and killed a San Francisco teenager last spring testifies about that fateful day. That story ahead.
And they are the tiny terrors who can bore thousands of dollars of damage in your home. A bit later, consumer editor Tom Vakar shares a battle plan to fight termites.
I'm meteorologist Bill Martin. The Channel 2 Weather Center. The weekend is upon us. We had a wet day today, and the weather, it's changing. We're going to see a wet weekend and some other stuff. All the complete forecast still ahead.
The San Francisco police officer who shot and killed a teenage girl during a drug stakeout last spring testified today that he was not aiming at her. The officer said he fired at the driver of the car she was in and did so in self-defense. The driver of that car, not the officer, stands accused of murder. Rob Roth reports.
Michael Negron stands charged with murdering 17-year-old Sheila DeToy. But his attorneys say this is the man who should be charged, Gregory Breslin, a San Francisco police officer. Today at Negron's preliminary hearing in San Francisco Superior Court, Breslin, for the first time in public, gave his version of the controversial shooting that took DeToy's life.
You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do. Breslin testified he was in an unmarked van staking out a suspected drug dealer last May when a Ford Mustang driven by Michael Negron came at him.
I screamed police from the top of my lungs at least 5 times.
Did you say anything else besides police, if you know?
Yes, I ordered him to stop the vehicle and to turn the car off.
Breslin testified the car then went into reverse and came at him again. He said he ran, but the car changed course and came toward him.
When I looked, the car was right there, and it was going to hit me. I had my gun in my left hand, and I raised my weapon, and I fired at the driver.
All right. Did you, what happened next?
I fired at the driver, and the car kept coming. And now it's almost right on top of me, and I fired again at the driver.
The bullets didn't hit Negron, but one hit and killed his front seat passenger, Sheila DeToy. Breslin said he never saw any passengers. Negron is charged with murder because prosecutors say he provoked the shooting. But Negron's lawyers say Breslin has a history of disciplinary problems and used excessive force, that no other witnesses heard him yell police, and
there's absolutely no bullet holes in the front of the car. They're all in the back.
Under cross-examination, Breslin testified that just after the shooting, he spent more than 7 hours talking to his lawyers before talking to police investigators looking into the shooting. That has members of a police watchdog group upset.
Why does a police officer who fires his weapon justifiably need 7 hours with lawyers before he turns in a police report? This looks like a cover-up more and more every day to us in the community.
The reason there's a gap in time is because the investigators are at the scene doing their investigation.
Officer Breslin continues to work out of the narcotics unit. He's expected to wrap up his testimony tomorrow. Lawyers say the preliminary hearing should end next week. After that, the judge must decide whether Michael Negron should stand trial. In San Francisco, Rob Roth for the 10 o'clock news.
In News of the World tonight, in Turkey, officials released a new videotape showing captured Kurdish rebel leader Abdullah Öcalan blindfolded and shackled, being taken to a remote island prison. Turkey says it will soon put him on trial on terrorism charges. Also today, thousands of Turkish troops moved to crush Öcalan's rebels at their bases in northern Iraq. In Peru, street vendors battled police today in the capital city of Lima. Authorities had evicted the unlicensed vendors yesterday, but they returned in defiance today and set up their stalls again. The street vendors complain that police are depriving them of earning a living. Today's clashes, several people were injured, many businesses were looted and damaged. And at the Kosovo peace negotiations in France, the push is on for an agreement before Saturday's deadline. NATO says it is ready to begin military action if there is no agreement. The U.S. and other embassies in the Yugoslav capital of Belgrade are preparing to evacuate in case of military action, and NATO troops are training in the event they are sent into Kosovo to enforce a peace agreement.
Coming up on tonight's 10 o'clock news, they are creatures most of us have never seen, yet they live not far from us. Segment 2 looks at some creatures of the deep.
Santa Cruz surfers are riding a wave of glory after the local boys take top honors at Mavericks.
But first, a look at the closing numbers from Wall Street.
On tonight's segment 2, we visit a place considered one of planet Earth's last unexplored frontiers. It's a place not far away, but inhabited by creatures strange and mysterious. Health and Science editor John Fowler has a report.
Tonight we're going on a most unusual fishing expedition. On moonlit, pre-dawn waters, motoring a dozen miles from shore with a remarkable research robot lashed to the deck. By sunup, the crew has us in very deep water. Below deck, scientists from the Monterey Bay Aquarium Research Institute are preparing for a dive.
Test 1, 2? Yeah. Okay. Channel you on. Gyro is working, CTD tube is off, sonar is going through calibration now.
On deck, the crew is swinging the $1 million submersible over the side. Connected by a tether, it has cameras, sensors, and manipulators. They are the scientists' remote eyes, ears, and hands. They've named it Ventana, that's Spanish for window. It is indeed a window into a world few humans have ever glimpsed. Just off Monterey's picturesque coast, the dark blue Pacific hides a mysterious world filled with the strange creatures of this planet's last great frontier, such as this weirdly glowing jellyfish, a cannibal of the deep. This delicate flower-like creature that's evolved into a vicious predator, and even the feared great white shark. All live in Monterey Bay's underwater canyon, longer, wider, and deeper than the Grand Canyon itself. In the abyssal darkness as deep as 13,000 feet, life flourishes.
It's very different from what we're used to, but yet it's the largest habitat on Earth.
Descending into the darkness on our dive, lights illuminate a storm of snow-like stuff. In fact, they call it marine snow. Small dead and living things and residue from above, food raining on things below, deep below. Suddenly, the bottom looms into view.
Those are different kinds of deep sea stars we're watching. There's two. There's another one right there. There's a hagfish. Do you want to zoom in? Thank you. Stop. There we go.
The object of this dive is to collect sea pens, mud-loving relatives of coral. If the lights were off, you'd see a spectacular shower of bioluminescence, living light. These foot-long creatures create as a defense when disturbed. We also spot a deep-living relative of a nudibranch. No one knows why it's evolved spots here where there is no natural light. And here we catch a glimpse of a 6-inch squid catching a fish for dinner. Despite years of regular dives, biologists say they've barely begun to study the deep ocean.
We know very, very little about what lives out there. We know a lot of names of animals that have been dredged up over the years, but beyond that, what they feed on, what their life cycle is, what the ecology is in their habitat is really, for the most part, unknown.
The Monterey Bay Aquarium plans to expand its exhibits to show visitors a glimpse of this alien world. Alongside the kelp forest and creatures of the shallow sea, it plans a first-of-its-kind collection from the extreme deep sea. Back on the research vessel, after about 3 hours, we see Ventana surfacing with its catch of samples from the deep. The trick here is to get the robot aboard quickly and transfer these animals into specially prepared water. Many of these animals are surprisingly fragile, and their deep-sea habitat is very different from surface water. Sensors on the ventana tell scientists the temperature, salinity, even the amount of oxygen in the water when they collect the samples, so that when they get back to the aquarium, they'll know exactly the right kind of environment for the animals.
Some of the animals that we've gotten from this depth, one of the things that's interesting about them is that they can't stand oxygen. It's toxic to them. And one of the things that we've had to develop for this exhibit are low oxygen tanks.
Visitors will have the opportunity to see creatures of the deep up close when the new exhibit opens next month. But scientists say the unexplored ocean is so vast, there are certainly many surprises still waiting for discovery at the bottom of the sea. I'm Health and Science Editor John Fowler, and that's segment 2 for tonight.
And coming up on the 10 o'clock news, Northern California's weather creates a bumper crop of termites. A bit later, consumer editor Tom Vakar offers a plan of action.
Also ahead, one of KTVU's own is honored by a Bay Area women's group.
In sports, the Yankees pulled off a mega trade, picking up this all-star, but giving up a fan favorite.
But first, meteorologist Bill Martin joins us with a look at the forecast.
Chinese Memories are sponsored by GTE.
The Chinese believe that evil spirits travel in a straight line, and so in our buildings we create curves and angles to trip them. Colors play an important role in Chinese symbolism. Red represents love and happiness, green stands out for progress, and the color gold denotes prosperity. No wonder that Chinatown is so radiant.
Meteorologist Bill Martin joins us now to talk to us about whether we can play outside tomorrow.
You can play outside tomorrow, and tomorrow's going to be the best day. We've got more weather moving our way, though. Here's how it looked around the bay. We had lots of rain, especially in the mid-morning hours into the early afternoon. Then the front went through, and the rainfall ended for most areas. Rainfall amounts were heaviest in the North Bay. San Jose had just 2/10 of an inch of rain. San Francisco had 2/10, and Santa Rosa, as I mentioned, the heaviest rainfall, 4/10 of an inch, and a beautiful sunset. You see sort of the sheer there, a live picture in Lake Merritt. Temperature outside right now, well, they're mainly in the 50s. Lake Merritt is 52 degrees. It's kind of warm out there, and a beautiful night. Enjoy tomorrow. It's going to be very nice. I want to show you these. Rainfall totals as of 1999 this year. Pretty impressive, about 100% of average. Watch what it was like last year. This is where the numbers were last year. It was 38 inches of rain to date, 29 in San Francisco and 35 in Oakland. That's how wet it was last year. This year, we're just where we should be, average. The satellite imagery will take you to the last 24 hours. Watch this weather system and watch this one. You'll see the counterclockwise flow. Two completely different types of weather systems. Warm and moist with this one. This next one that wants to come in on Saturday is going to link up with some moisture, but it's got a lot of cold air with it. So Saturday night system into Sunday, we'll see lower snow levels in the mountains, windier conditions, and probably not a heavy amount of rainfall in the Bay Area, just scattered showers. In the Pacific Northwest, they've had day after day of snow. This is what happens. Highway 20 in the Oregon Cascades. A snow slide. It closed Highway 20 today. They had a very wet snow because of the warm nature of this weather system, and that's what started a lot of the slide problems. Highway 20 closed. Let's take a look at what we expect the next couple of days. As I mentioned, the weather system moving off. This one moves in on Saturday. The entire jet stream drops down Saturday night into Sunday, actually by Saturday afternoon. So expect most of the day Saturday to be bad. Sunday looks very wet, and if you're heading to the mountains, expect winter storm warnings to be posted. This next weather system looks as though it has a pretty good potential to drop snow in the mountains. The radar, and you'll see the front pass right through, clearing throughout the state right now, and that's good news. In the mountains, they got up to 1.5 feet of snow. We'll show you where it is tonight and where it's going tomorrow in terms of the frontal system and the rain and snow. The winter storm warning has been dropped for the Lake Tahoe area. It was in effect most of the day today, and chains are required on 50 and 80. If you're traveling, the current radar, not a real problem until you get down to the southeast. You might find a delay in Atlanta and then again in Seattle. Pretty easy travel day for you tomorrow. Light snow in the northern plains. Partly sunny for us tomorrow, 58 to 62. We'll see some breaks. Enjoy tomorrow. Enjoy Saturday morning, because as we head towards Saturday afternoon and Sunday, rain in the forecast and snow in the mountains. And in the mountains, these pictures were taken from North Star. And I was going to say these should be from today, but this is not today up there. I know they had plenty of snow. If you're heading that way, a winter storm warning probably will go into effect on Saturday afternoon into Sunday. The snow level's lower with this. Carry the chains, But as you can see, lots of snow, up to 1.5 feet of snow from this last weather system. So skiers are loving this.
Want to get out
Great.
there.
Thanks,
Thank
Phil.
you.
Still to come tonight, there is a new owner of the Transamerica Pyramid Building. We'll tell you what it means to San Francisco.
Also ahead, battling termites in this year of a bumper crop.
San Francisco building that sparked outrage when it was built, but is now one of the world's most recognized landmarks, changed hands today. The insurance company it symbolizes is being taken over in a multi-billion-dollar deal. Business editor Brian Banmiller has a report.
The Transamerica Pyramid is a world-famous landmark that helps define the city by the bay. Today, that landmark's ownership moved a world away. Dutch insurance giant Aegon announced this morning it will buy Transamerica for $9.7 billion. The combined company will become the third biggest insurer in the country.
I think you really have to have scale to compete, and I think this transaction unites Transamerica with one of the world's leading international insurance organizations. The two companies have complementary product lines and distribution channels, and so I think it really offers a terrific opportunity for Transamerica to grow.
Transamerica spokesman Bill McClave says while the company employs more than 8,000 workers worldwide, only about 100 work here, so there will not be massive layoffs. The combined company will still be called Transamerica, and U.S. headquarters will stay in San Francisco, but the control moves to The Hague. The sale is another well-known local financial services company now controlled by outsiders. Others include Bank of America, Pacific Telesis, Robertson Stevens, and Montgomery Securities.
There's a bit of a loss of cachet when you lose a headquarters company, and that's a concern. I think the good news is that we do have valuable properties. People are coming here to invest in them because there's an access to a strong market here. We're well positioned in the global marketplace.
San Francisco's Chamber of Commerce President Ray Serpin tried to put a positive spin on the loss, saying it's part of major consolidations in the financial services industry necessary to compete in the global marketplace.
Actually, there's been job growth in the financial sector here in San Francisco. In the past 5 years, jobs have grown 17% in the financial sector.
Completed in 1972, it is the city's tallest building and was almost never built. Its controversial design offended some architecture critics who thought it just plain ugly. Environmentalists complained its pointy top was a waste of space. But it was the backdrop for the company's ad campaigns for decades and a prop for scores of Hollywood films, TV series, and postcards.
Commenting on this latest sale of hometown real estate, one cynic told me pretty soon some out-of-towner will try to buy the Golden Gate Bridge. Still, stockholders are happy today. Transamerica stock jumped more than $15 a share today to close above $72. In San Francisco, Brian Badmiller for the 10 o'clock news.
Recent rains are causing an undesirable crop to flourish in the Bay Area. Pest control companies say that termites are eating away homes at an alarming rate. Consumer editor Tom Vakar reports.
A few months ago, this Alamo house was treated for termites, but the owner says recently more termites showed up. The pesticide may not have reached into all the places into which the termites had bored. This week, the owner called in another company, Leading Edge Termite Treatment, to try an injected chemical foam.
If we use foam, it causes it to expand and spread out. It'll also even come up against the bottom of the concrete and fill it.
Indeed, the operator pumps the foam until it comes out of seams or drilled access holes. Most other treatment methods, tenting, freezing, heating, electrocution, and microwaving, do their work but quickly dissipate. New termites can move right back in. But Rowe says the foam, only slightly more toxic than common table salt, remains in the wood for years. It does not require the family, its food, its pets, and everything else to move out for days.
We haven't had a reinfestation in 4 years.
El Nino's wet weather provided dry wood termites and underground dwelling termites with something they thrive on, lots of water. Does your house need a termite inspection? Well, consider this. Experts say that about 50% of Bay Area houses are likely to have termites, and in some areas that likelihood is 100%. Experts say homes should be inspected for termites every 3 years or whenever there's a major earthquake, which can break pipes that supply termites with water. Now, depending on the complexity of the house and access, inspections range in cost from just $75 to $250. Eradication of termites ranges from $1,000 to $1,500 in most cases, though structural repairs can cost considerably more. Whatever method you choose to use, it's critical to kill all the termites in the house, because those you don't kill start new colonies right away. I'm consumer editor Tom Vakar for the 10 o'clock news.
The day after Santa Cruz locals took home top honors in the Men Who Ride Mountain Surf Contest, fellow surfers sang their praises. At Cowell's Surf Shop, Pete Pappas showed off the morning edition of the paper. The Santa Cruz Sentinel ran 2 big stories on the contest with photos of the first place winner, a guy by the name of Darryl Verasco, he calls himself Flea, and second place winner Richard Schmidt. And all 5 of the 7 top winners at the Mavericks contest hailed from Santa Cruz. As other surfers paddled out to catch a few waves of their own, those on shore spoke highly of what local surfers accomplished.
It's great to see someone like the Flea. He could ride any type of wave anywhere in the world.
It's pretty awesome. Those guys are full bar, definitely. They're hitting on all 8, going out there and tearing it up like that.
And while many were proud of what the Santa Cruz surfers did yesterday, they said it's not all that surprising. After all, they say, who knows the waves and conditions of Northern California coast any better?
Hundreds of people gathered at San Francisco's Fairmont Hotel tonight for the 20th anniversary gala of the Women's Foundation of San Francisco. The foundation is the largest and the oldest philanthropic fund for women in the western United States. Tonight, the group honored several women, among them professor and political activist Angela Davis, and there she is, our KTVU reporter, Faith Fancher. Many regular viewers of the 10 o'clock news may recall that 2 years ago, Faith was diagnosed with breast cancer. Her cancer is now in remission. Faith is working tirelessly to advance breast cancer awareness. So tonight, we would like to applaud Faith and the other women honored by the Women's Foundation. And Faith always looks better than any woman I know in an evening gown.
She does look wonderful.
She does.
Mark Abanez has joined us now to tell us about how the boys did down on the farm, the Cal women, everybody.
Yeah, and even some baseball starting to trickle in right now, too. You know, first day of spring training for many teams. Yankees put out a bulletin. We're serious about winning it all again. They pull off a huge trade. Tell you about that. And Thursday night, of course, college basketball night. And what an easy evening it was for Stanford. Tournament time around the corner. We've got highlights next.
And everything that Stanford's doing is right.
Playing just like a team that has a whole lot to prove, most of all to themselves. Stanford, despite having a seeming lock on the Pac-10, looking hungry tonight. They've heard the whispers. Cardinal just not quite good enough to do real damage once the tournament comes on. But up in Washington, Stanford owned it on both ends. Out-rebounding the Huskies 48-25. Jaron Collins, the offensive board. Wrap it around for Mark Madsen on his way to 2 easy ones. 15 on the night for him. Stanford up 14.5 and stretching it out in the second. Arthur Lee scoots to the bucket and Tim Young spots him perfectly to slice it. Never a contest. Chris Weems, like Lee, had 14. He'll steal it. He'll go pillar to post with it, dealing Washington their first home loss of the season. And it was never in question for Mike Montgomery and company, now 11-2 in the Pac-10. Forget about Cal in the tournament. They go down in the land of the Palouse, losing WSU. The Bears now only 5-8 in the Pac-10. And when you're overmatched, seriously overmatched in the talent pool, about the best you can hope for is respectability when it's all over. That's the most San Jose State could reasonably hope for, as the 12th ranked team in the country takes over Spartan Gym with Rick Majera showing the way. Spartans giving the youth a little South Bay welcome. Eric Griffin of the Spartans mugs Jeremy Killian, knocked him into the post. Flagrant foul. Hello, but getting physical. Not going to do a thing to slow ththese guys down. Andre Miller canned the fade on the side of the lane. He had 15, and their leading scorer was Tony Harvey. He will be the guy you'll notice slamming the ball down hard. 17 for Harvey, and yes, he's real. Worst home loss of the year for the Spartans. The rest of the local motion finds San Diego hammering the Broncos of Santa Clara. In overtime, USF a winner over in Moraga. And women's hoops, surprise loss for Stanford. They had won 7 straight. Huskies pull it off against the Cardinal. California had it their way over WSU. Look at that score. Lowest point total in the history of the San Jose State women's program. 76-23. They lose to Utah. I guess why even play the season? Just give the World Series trophy right now to the Yankees. Save everybody the trouble. Sure, that was the reaction of many a baseball fan as they heard the news today that Roger Clemens is now with New York. It looks like a clear-cut case of overkill. Yankees, who had the best record ever in the American League, add a 5-time Cy Young Award winner to their already daunting pitching staff, and it's just unthinkable anybody could beat them in the American League now. New York does give up a pretty good pitcher in David Wells to get him. Wells threw a perfect game last summer, 18-game winner himself, but you couldn't quite say he's in the Clemens category. They also threw in a couple of more guys. As you see the way it all shakes out on paper, aside from Wells, the Jays will get lefty reliever Graham Lloyd and a promising young infielder by the name of Homer Bush. Good baseball name if he pans out, but the Yankees get one man, probably the most dominant pitcher, even at age 37 in the Bigs, and on cloud 9. Joining the Yankees, quite the opposite of a befuddled David Wells.
Culture shock, man. It must have hit you hard, huh? Very hard. Very, very hard, but you know, what can you do? Yeah. When you feel at home and it's one of your loves and then it's gone, it's tough to take. Yeah.